Here at the NYSE alongside Kevin Hanks over at the SIBO. We've got you covered from exchange to exchange. Time now for our cash tag segment. For that, we want to bring in our next guest, and that is Andy Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio. All right, today we're taking a look at United Airlines. It's got earnings due after the close today. You all have new data from your look across United Airlines and this space. I'm curious to know, because we got Delta's results recently, and there was it showed that premium was still holding up. I'm curious to know, one, what's the overall data trends that you're noticing?
Yeah, the first trend that we're noticing is that just like the overall economy, there's the K-shaped economy inside of airlines as well, where the haves are doing much better than the have-nots. And fortunately, United and Delta are on the have side of the equation, and you can see it in web visits. United's web visits are down just 1%, pretty much flat, 1 or 2%. Delta's flat, while Southwest and American, kind of the budget carriers at this point, are down pretty significantly. That's a very big deal. It tells us that United's position is strong and holding steady as the overall sector softens. And I think the biggest takeaway from LikeFolio data, though, is when you break down the tickets to premium versus budget, the premium and business class are absolutely surging on United, plus 26%, plus 20% year over year, while economy interest is slightly negative. So United's momentum is very much driven by travelers who are willing to pay more and not those chasing cheap seats. So they're in the perfect spot of this K-shaped economy. They're benefiting because their customers are willing to pay up for the good seats. They're very loyal, very much like Delta. And so, we put those two together in terms of the winners category in the airline space.
Andy, this looks like it's really starting to turn into a two-horse race here with Delta and United. And those three segments, remember, when Delta came out, everyone was surprised about the business travel. Out of the scrap heap, business travel is back. And so, they really talked about international, they talked about premium, and they talked about the business traveler. And those three, if your numbers are correct, and you guys have been on a bit of a roll lately with your data, and if your numbers are correct, United may put up better numbers in terms of business travel. And, Delta rallied on their earnings report, sold off on the Friday global sell-off, and is right back where they were. So United, if this number hits, could be a nice mover for United on the upside, because those three things that Delta highlighted in their earnings, that's United's bread and butter as well, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's exactly what LikeFolio data is showing, that United is doing very well. United was up 5% on the Delta news, which tells us that Wall Street understands the connection between the two. They understand that airlines with pricing power, with loyalty, with business travelers are the ones that are winning, while everybody else is losing. And so we're pretty positive going into this event. I think they're going to have to beat what Delta put up in order to get a real big kind of rally going. But the downside risk for United, for us going into this earnings event, looks very limited, because, again, our data is showing that they are winning in all the places that matter.
I'm curious to know, Andy, because I know you all have an earnings score, and the street looking for adjusted EPS to come in at $2.64 for United. I'm curious to know, one, how you all are ranking it on that metric at LikeFolio, and especially in the context of the share performance. If you look at it on a year-over-year basis, it's still strong. It was one of the strongest performers last year, but on a year-to-date basis, less so. So what's your take when you think about the earnings score?
Yeah, we've got a positive earnings score on United. It's not out of this world. I think some of, Delta kind of did a little bit of an early reveal, and I think United's reacted positively to that. So we'll see. I think that they can beat what Delta put up. I think that they'll beat on revenue. We don't have a lot of insight into the expenses side of things, so we try to stay away from EPS numbers too much. But if Delta's any clue, I think they'll do well there as well. So we think that this is a little bit of a coiled spring and that United has some room to run, especially if we can get into this holiday season with some legs under the stock. I think it could be a really nice 90-day period.
And plus, they have that, kind of prickly issue that they had with Newark Airport out of the way, or in the rear view mirror. You remember when they had all those issues, and that's like one of their hubs. I know, because that's like my home airport from where I fly out of. I remember getting a message, try another flight. Anyway, all right, we'll bookmark that conversation. Thank you, Andy, for bringing your latest data on United Airlines. We'll see how they perform after the bell today. That's Andy Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio. Let's get Tom White back in here to get his perspective on United Airlines before we get